I was flipping through some of my panfish boxes the other day, just looking for some inspiration or something fun to tie, and I came across a pattern that I hadn't seen or even thought about in at least a couple years. Now, I remember when I came up with this thing, I was on a kick of tying a bunch of one material flies. Now, this one's not technically a one material fly because it does have a bead and a wire rib, but it's close enough. And I'm titling this video Fly Tying for Beginners because I want beginners to click on this and at least take away this one lesson, that flies do not have to be complex to be effective. Now, don't get me wrong, it can be a lot of fun tying a beautiful old classic Ray Bergman wet fly, but if I spend 30 minutes on one of those things, I don't even want to fish it. Half my patterns end up in the rocks or the trees anyway. But a fly like this, cheap materials, takes about 3 minutes to tie. Who cares if you lose it? Just keep half a dozen of them in your box. Now, one note, I didn't find this nymph in any book out there, but it's hardly an original pattern. It's one of those that have probably been invented 1,000 times over the years. And one other note, in that box that I dug up, none of those flies were consistent. I had several different colors of marabou, different colors of wire rib and beads. Pretty much the only thing on them that was consistent was a fluorescent thread for a hotspot. So any beginner tyer out there, my recommendation, tie up a bunch of these things, and not just for your warm water panfish box. Tie them in a 14 or smaller, and they're great trout bugs. And to you veteran tyers out there, y'all probably don't need this video, but I do appreciate you watching. So there it is in the vise, a fly that, as of 5 minutes ago, I just started calling the Easy Boo because it's very simple and it's really only used in marabou. Now this is a size 14, 3 extra long generic curve shank hook with a 2.8 millimeter bead. And all the ones I had in my box, well, most all of them, had a silver bead. I don't think the bead color really matters, but I did weight them with a fair amount of weight. If you have a tungsten bead, you probably won't need too much, but if it's a brass bead, which this is, you might need several wraps here. So this is just going to give it some weight and help hold that bead in place. Now take some thread for whatever color you want the hot spot to be. I was using fluorescent orange. I think pink, red, anything would look good. Heck, if you don't want a hot spot, just go with black thread. Now before we catch in the body, we are going to put a rib on it. And this is silver. The ones in my box, they were not consistent. I had some silver, some copper. I think I even had one hot gold. So I don't think this really matters much at all. It's really just for durability. It's not going to give it a whole lot of pop. Now for the main part of the body, just a small tuft of marabou. See this right here? This is like one little, sprig, I guess, from a marabou tuft. And it gets pretty big there at the end, but it's still a pretty thin feather. And go ahead and pinch it down here at the end, maybe a body length, maybe just a little less. Let's try right there. And don't get too carried away with your wraps right here. I don't really want a hot spot in the back. So that's 2 wraps. I'm going to put one in front of it and then one more lock and wrap right there. Now I'll just take my thread up here a little bit behind the bead. Let's see, maybe right there. Now what I do, kind of just lick my fingers, pull it up, and I'm going to spin this together really as tight as you want. It's kind of a mess, and it's going to be a little messy before we're done. But you see that? We got a little rope, and what's cool about this marabou, it's thin right there where it's close to the hook, and then it gets a little thicker the farther into the feather you get. So that will kind of give us a little bit of a natural taper. So let's go ahead and wrap this up, and what you might have to do, every wrap or two, give it another little twist just to tighten it back up. So you see what I'm talking about there? It's just a little bit thicker up here by the bead. So 2 wraps, maybe 3 if you think you need it. Go ahead and snip this off. And we'll fix that mess right there in the front when we're doing our hot spot. Now just wrap the rib. Counter wrap it if you want. I don't know that it really matters. And again, a light colored rib on a light colored fly, it's probably not going to pop too much. But if we had a black marabou, maybe this silver rib would stand out a little bit. but who knows, maybe the fish are going to see it anyway. So when you get this up here, go ahead and catch it off. Okay, so that's 2 wraps right there, and this is a brassy wire. I'm going to have to put some tension on my thread here. I'm holding that tight while I spin it off. And now I'm just going to kind of lick my fingers again, pull this back, and make our hot spot right behind the bead. Okay, I think that's going to be enough, and this is a 140 denier thread. You could certainly go with 70, but a 140 will take fewer wraps. And there you go, it's that simple. If you want to put some head cement on it, just put a drop right there on the bead, let it wick down over the thread wraps. Honestly, all the ones in my box, there wasn't a bit of head cement on any of them. So that's it, my friends, a very simple beginner pattern, but don't let it fool you, this thing can catch a ton of fish for you. So I appreciate you watching, y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.